In class, we've been listening to the song Bloody Sunday by U2. Bloody Sunday happened because the Catholics in Northern Ireland, they were angry with the discrimination against them. So they set up a civil rights movement. And in 1972, on the 30th of January, they were marching through Londonderry. Londonderry is north of Belfast, and the British troops had been sent in by Westminster, that is the Parliament in London, to control all the troubles between the Catholics and the Protestants. And the British troops, they went against the civil rights march and started shooting. And 13 people were shot dead, another 13 were injured. And the soldiers, they claimed that they had been under sustained attack, that means continuous attack, by gunfire and nail bomb. Nail bombs are bombs full of nails, so that they really wound a lot more than just normal bombs. But after the attack, no guns or bombs were recovered, so they actually just started shooting into a peaceful crowd of demonstrators. After Bloody Sunday, we come to the next bit, which is direct rule from London, because on March 24th, 1972, the British Prime Minister, who was called Edward Heath at the time, he said that the Stormont Parliament, which is the local parliament in Northern Ireland, was to be suspended. That means that they should no longer exist. And from now on, there should be direct rule from Westminster in London. And that commenced or started on the 30th of March, 1972. Then they set up what is called a Northern Ireland office, the NIO, and they placed this office or established it at Stormont under a Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, and the first Secretary of State was called William Whitelaw. To be a Secretary of State means that you are a minister, but this minister was appointed by London. But this wasn't everything that happened. London also thought we have to put in extra troops. So in 72, they also sent 4,000 extra troops. And what they were supposed to do was to dismantle the barricades on the boundaries of no-go areas. No-go areas were areas where Catholics were not allowed into Protestant areas and the other way around. And to dismantle means to pull down or to get rid of or to destroy the barricades. And in the hope of getting a peaceful situation, a Northern Ireland Assembly was set up. So, on April 10th, 1973, the British government introduced the Northern Ireland Assembly Bill at Westminster with the aim of creating a power-sharing assembly at Stormont. Power-sharing assembly means that Protestants and Catholics should share the power, and they had their first elections on June 28th. William Whitelaw, the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, he chaired a series of talks. To chair means that he was the chairman of these talks to form the power-sharing executive. Executive means udøvende forsamling, det vil sige en regering. And then on November 21st, 1973, an agreement was reached between the political parties. So now it was possible to actually have a government again, but this time with both Catholics and Protestants. But the Protestants didn't like that. The workers in Northern Ireland, they were very much against it. So they called a strike, and this strike lasted for 2 weeks. And it crippled the economy of the province. That means they actually destroyed the economy of Northern Ireland. The chief minister in this power-sharing executive that had just been set up, he resigned or stepped down, and then the power-sharing experiment ended, and Protestants celebrated across the province. The Protestants were happy that the power-sharing was not or did not take effect. There were hunger strikes as well. Bobby Sands is a very famous IRA soldier, he was the leader of the IRA, and he had been put in prison, and he began a hunger strike to protest against the ending of special category status. That means they were put in prison without having a trial. They were treated as if they were prisoners of war, and they resented being treated as criminals because they were freedom fighters. By October the 3rd, 1981, Bobby Sands and 10 other Republican prisoners had starved themselves to death, and this had a huge psychological impact on the Republican movement. It means that the Republican movement got stronger, and they really resented everything happening in the North. They really wanted to have a change. And the public sympathy generated by the hunger strikes coincided with growing political maturity on the part of Sinn Féin. Sinn Féin is the political wing of the IRA. So the Sinn Féin grew in maturity. They became more like a real political party. And the British government accepted that there was no military solution. That is, from Britain, they realized there's nothing we can do in Northern Ireland. We have to do something. So they started negotiating a settlement to the problem. And there were secret contacts that led to talks involving Sinn Féin, the SDLP, which is the Social Democratic Labour Party, and the British and Irish governments. And finally, in 1995, Republican and Loyalist paramilitaries announced ceasefires. And now, since 1995, the situation in Northern Ireland has been a lot more peaceful